What's going on, guys? Today we got a 2013 Genesis sedan. Now, Genesis sedan, not something you see too often, but I gotta tell you guys today, it's a real treat. This is not a car you see too often, and you really should. And I know the new Genesises are out here because this is still a Hyundai Genesis before they just went to Genesis, but this is definitely a good car and it's super underrated. So we're gonna talk about some features. I'm gonna let you guys know some things about it, and we're gonna get on with it and see why maybe you would want to buy a Hyundai Genesis, the sedan. All right, so just starting on the exterior of this car, I'm gonna mention something that's kind of odd about it. So like I said before, this is a Hyundai Genesis, right? This is before they switched to their own brand, just like Acura and Lexus. Acura and Lexus and Toyota and Honda. Before they divided and became their own company, this was still badged as a Hyundai Genesis. You see the badge there, it'll say Genesis. However, going along this car, you'll notice there are pretty much no Hyundai badges. It says Genesis here on the back, it says Genesis here, and other than these little caps they've been put on the wheels, it actually says Hyundai there, but for the most part the car just says Genesis around it, or has no badging whatsoever. If you go to the front of the car, you'll see the grille literally has nothing on it. There's no symbol. It doesn't tell you what it is. So if you're not familiar with this car, you'll just be wondering what it is. People drive past you and you have no clue what you're looking at. But indeed, it's the Hyundai Genesis. All right, so under the hood of the Genesis, this is the 3.8 V6 model. All right, so you could have got this car with a 5-liter V8, probably a pretty good option, but I'm gonna tell you guys right now, this 3.8 doesn't really disappoint. Although this car is very large and you'd expect it to be very heavy, it's about 3,800 pounds, it still has enough power with the V6 that you're not really feeling compromised. Obviously, the V8 is gonna be a better option, it's gonna have better passing power on the highway and stuff, but overall, this is pretty good for daily driving, and you get a slightly better fuel economy. Also, you notice, just like the Germans, they pretty much just cover everything up. You just have this big engine cover. Only thing that's really available is your area to top up oil, your oil dipstick, brake fluid, and nothing really else. They kind of hide everything. It looks nice, that's what luxury brands do. This was Hyundai on their way to being a luxury brand, and they followed the steps, you know, they followed just like everyone else, hide everything, just make it big plastic. Although enthusiasts might not like that too much, I'm pretty sure the people who are not really looking under here don't really care. All right, guys, moving back onto the rear of the trunk. So first thing you're not going to notice is that Genesis badge. All right, so like I said, this was still branded a Hyundai Genesis, but yet they just put Genesis anywhere they could, and they didn't really emphasize on being a Hyundai. I guess they already had their future plans of being a separate brand. So there's nothing really right home about back here, just the fact that it is fairly large. This is a large vehicle, so you get large cargo space with it. But a big downfall is that they don't have foldable rear seats, at least in this version. You have a pass-through, so if you have like skis or something, you can fit it through there, but you can't fold down the rear seats in order to just have a big open space. That's probably a flaw. They should have made it so you can fold it down. It'd be a lot more practical, especially since it's a big vehicle and it kind of deals with practicality, just being like a luxury car that you can carry people in. You want to make it as practical as possible. You'll notice that if you lift up the mat, you get spare tire, which is always nice and handy. I'm a fan of spare tires versus the inflatable kits. And you also notice the battery is located in the trunk. Just like a lot of German cars, BMWs, Mercedes, they put the battery in the trunk for better weight distribution, and that follows suit on the Genesis sedan. So that's a good tip, a good thing to take away from the German cars. All right, so climbing inside the Genesis sedan 2013, you'll notice right away, big Hyundai badge right in the middle. The rest of the car does not show this symbol other than the like little packaging things or manufacturer stamps and stuff like that. But this is pretty much the only component of the car other than the wheels that clearly states this is a Hyundai. Now, you look around and the interior is fairly nice. You get leather, perforated leather here. You get like this dark wood trim around it. The gauge cluster is analog. I'll show you guys that in a second. And this is kind of where they cheaped out. Now, if you get the higher trim level, you'll get a screen here. It's a nicer screen, but you know, it's dictated by its age. It's still a 2013 car and screens weren't that great at the time. Look at any luxury car from that time and you'll see, like, compared to today, obviously it's nothing to write home about. But this is just a basic analog screen, which is not the biggest deal, but what makes it worse is that they just put this big bevel of plastic around it. Now, if you're going around the interior, you see the leather, you see the wood trim, and it looks nice for the rest of the components. But then you get to the center, which is the whole centerpiece, and they just have this big silver and black plastic. Even looking at the center plastic here, that's a big downfall. The gear selector just has a big center plastic. There's nothing special. They made it kind of look like brushed aluminum, but it doesn't really show. It looks more like plastic than anything else. And it's kind of a big empty space. It didn't need to be this large. This car never came with a manual. Like, it was only an automatic, and they used a lot of dead space. I know that if you got a higher trim level, you'd have one extra button right here, and that'd be cooled seats. The seats were only cooled for the drivers, not cooled for the passenger. But regardless, this is still too big of a piece of plastic for not much there. They didn't put many buttons there. It didn't need to be this big. Continuing around, you'll see you just have a little coin pouch here. It has a nice push and it'll slide back on its own. And you get two fairly large cup holders right here as well. Push down and locks into place. Your center console, also fairly large. I would expect it to be a little bit bigger for how large the car is, but it will suffice. You know, you have your glove box, a nice press button to get it to drop down. And for the most part, there's not that much in here. You have your map pockets that have a cool feature. They pop out, giving you a little bit easier to access things within it. Since a lot of cars, I'll show you guys that a little bit better. Just pull that down. It makes it easier to get things in and out, because sometimes map pockets can be very tight. And of course, you get the basic features like one touch windows up and down for the front seats. Different trim levels would have came with more features. They would even come with like shades for the rear seats. But right now you'll see it's just a pretty basic, but yet fairly large rear seat. I've sat in the back of this car, and regardless if you're above 6 feet, you'll probably fit very comfortably, and you'll have a nice ride back there. You'll also see on this pillar right here that they put the climate controls for the rear people, or not climate controls, but they have climate vents pointing towards the rear. They have one in the center, and they also have ones on the pillar. So you get a little bit of control back there if you're a rear passenger, and you're not just limited to any air that's blowing onto your feet. All right, so we're gonna start up the car. This is a proximity key. Again, the one place they China cheaped out, they put the Hyundai badge on the back of the key. So this key will look like any other Hyundai key from the time period. They didn't bother putting Genesis on the back here, but you know, it's still a proximity key. You got your push to start ignition down here. Press it. Steering wheel drops down into the place you set it. So if you had set the steering wheel for different position with the seat controls, as soon as you get in the car, it puts itself to that position. And when you turn off the car, it'll put the steering wheel back out of the way to make it easy to get in and out of the vehicle. So I'm just going to show you the screen now while it's on. It's just blue screen, black writing, nothing special. The car does have Bluetooth. That's nice, but the overall display of the screen, I'd say, is inadequate. And then the gauge cluster, when lit up, you'll see just a little another pixelated display. It gives you some basic information, and that's about it. Nothing really to tell you there. Like I said, from the time period, they weren't really into all the features with screens yet. Alright guys, we're gonna go for a little drive, see how the car is. So first things first, it's a little bit snowy right now. This is a rear wheel drive car. Alright, at the time you couldn't get an all-wheel drive yet, only rear wheel drive with this, I believe, 7-speed automatic. Actually it's an 8-speed automatic. Now, like I was saying, this is not the V8. This is the 3.8 V6. But the 3.8 V6 is a lot more powerful than it seems. This makes 333 horsepower, I believe, and 291 pound-feet of torque, right? And one doesn't really matter. And I know that today's standards, that's not that much, but it's more than enough. There's clearly faster cars, but this is a real budget, bargain, luxury sedan, right? The space in this car is like rivals an S-Class so much. Like, it's really large. Although it doesn't have all the features, and like if you get base models, you get a lot of stuff taken away. It has more than most of the features that you want on a daily basis. It doesn't have a heating steering wheel, so I'm gonna have to knock it for that. And it doesn't really have anything much. But it has your heated seats, it has your Bluetooth, it has most of the daily accommodations that you would like for your daily driver car. And on top of that, it's a very comfortable ride that you can enjoy going everywhere. The seats are very wide. They don't have much bolstering because it's not a sports car, right? It's a luxury car, so you get a wide, comfy seat. I can imagine driving miles on miles in this car without any issue. You just hop in, You have all the space you want. You can put the seat back really far if you need, if you're a taller person. If you're a shorter person, you can bring it up. The steering wheel can telescope back and forth, and you just have all the adjustability you need to make this a very comfortable car. And your rear passengers will still have all the space they need as well, because it's just that long, and they took the space wisely. They gave you a lot of rear legroom, they gave you a lot of forward legroom, you get a lot of headroom, you'll see here, and you get a large trunk so you can keep all the cargo with you. And if you step on it, it's gonna spin the tires. We're going through an intersection right now, it's a little bit slippery, and the back end's kicking out. If you don't want to drive like that, then you just take off normally, and it'll go without an issue. Being rear-wheel drive though, I know this is not going to be for some people, because they don't want to drive a rear-wheel drive car in the winter. If you look around, you see it through my window, there's snow. It snowed yesterday, and the owner of this car drives this car in the snow every year, right? All they do is they put some winter tires on it, and they take their time. I know a lot of people are going to want an all-wheel drive car. You're going to want an X-Drive, you're going to want a 4MATIC, you're going to want a Quattro. But if you're not looking for that, and you're not looking for the brand name, this is a good option. Because first of all, if you don't like being flashy, you don't want people noticing you, no one's gonna really notice this car, which can be a negative and a benefit. I'm not saying it's a bad looking car, it's just not a car that stands out. And especially with the lack of badging or just defining lines or anything like that, most people won't notice it when you drive by. They won't even know what it is. So you can say that's a bad thing if you want people to notice your car, but if you don't and you just want to get to where you want to be in a comfortable ride, well, this is a great option because no one's gonna notice. It has the power to pass on the highway. It's comfy, it has good brakes, like everything about it is an overall good package. On another note, guys, this 8-speed transmission, although it's not the quickest, definitely is really smooth. Like, all shifts, you don't even notice they're happening. And I know that's a staple of most cars these days, but like, it's so good at keeping this to be a luxury car that you almost feel like you're in one of those rival German competitors. And I know it's not them. And you can see the differences in some parts where they reduce their quality, or they have to do that to make it more affordable. Because remember, this car wasn't terribly expensive brand new, right? Like it could have been a lot more. It was maybe half the cost of some of its competitors, right? And it's like the size of an S-Class, it has the performance of an E-Class, and I was at the price of like a C-Class, right? Or vice versa, BMW 7 Series, 5 Series, 3 Series. So that's how this car was marketed. And you know what? They did a really good job for what that is. One of the biggest things you notice about this car is simply how quiet it is in here. I don't know if it projects to you guys, but like other than the road noise that I have because of this winter tires and the road being slightly rough, you don't hear much. You don't hear wind noise. Everything's quiet and just how you expect it. Maybe if this was a V8, you'd hear some exhaust note. It's not really, you don't really hear any of that, which I guess is a benefit if you're looking for a quiet luxury car, right? But if you wanted some sound, sorry, you're not gonna get it with this one. Also, I'll put an exhaust note clip in the back for you guys here. I'll give you a cold start, and you can see for yourself what it sounds like. Alright, on that note guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can get more content. And if you have any ideas of any other cars you'd like me to talk about or review, just drop a comment down below and I'll see if I can make that happen.